Hello my beautiful mythical creatures, Ace here, he, she, and I'm back at you with another podfic. We're doing Someone Like You by Sparky Pasker, and I'm still so sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. The link and trigger warnings will be in the description, and please go give kudos to the original author. Chapter 19. Izuku sat in his new apartment just staring at his new uniform. Hatsume had delivered it by drone just a few hours after he moved in. Other than his book bag and a small pile of blankets borrowed from Uraraka, this reinforced container was the only thing he had to move into his unit. At first, he was concerned about it being so conspicuous, but he soon realized that there was almost no one out and about during the day. He stood, taking his uniform out of its case and putting it on. It fit just as well as it did when he tried it on in Hatsume's office. Izuku ran his hand down his sides, marveling at the feel of the micro-laced Kevlar. He put on his now well-worn and broken-in shoes, strapped his mask over his face, then pulled the hood of his suit up over his head. Lastly, he took one last item out of the case. It was his visor. He had been communicating back and forth with Hatsume for weeks, making sure his operating system was installed and working correctly. It took a bit of time to make the program compatible with a mobile device rather than a computer, but he made it work. He positioned his visor over his eyes and felt the magnets activate, locking his face mask, visor, and hood together in one unit. Theoretically, the magnetism should be strong enough to stop anything from being locked loose. But in an event something does, it should strengthen the hold on whatever parts of the uniform remain. Like if he loses his visor, the hood and mask will bind together stronger. It was a safeguard he built in to protect his identity. Izuku knows that most heroes don't bother putting in a lot of effort into doing the same, but they weren't Izuku. If someone found out it was Izuku, the quirkless freak, that arrested them, they would, without a doubt, track him down. Then everyone who he ever talked to would be in danger. Not to say the same thing wouldn't happen to heroes, because he's sure it does. It's just that as a hero, they wouldn't be underestimated. Underestimation is good for Izuku when he's patrolling, but not when he's a civilian. No one would think twice about attacking him. Most would at least reconsider an attack on a hero. As such, he needed to make sure he never revealed his identity to anyone when he was in uniform. He had his identification number to give to dispatchers, but he didn't really have a name to give to anyone else he met. He had been thinking about it a lot, but there was really only one he could think of that felt right. It felt natural. Absent. Although unofficially, that was going to be what he called himself. If anyone found out he was quirkless, they would probably believe it was a play on that. But it wasn't really it. It was more of an prophecy. Whenever he needed help, there was never anyone around to help him. But if he could help it, he would never let anyone else feel that way. It was his constant reminder. Izuku took a deep breath. He couldn't be his normal self during patrols. He had to get rid of his second-guessing and uncertainty. He wasn't sure he could, but he didn't have a choice. If he let his anxieties take over, either himself or a civilian could be killed. He could not allow that to happen. Izuku stood in front of his kitchen window. He was met with a subpar view. Just a dark alleyway. The surrounding buildings even blocked the moon from shining down. He opened it, then jumped out. In all reality, he probably could have picked a better building to live in. The environment made for a perfect place to suddenly appear and disappear. His gray and black palette camouflage allowed him to blend into the darkness. As he walked from the alley and into the street, Izuku walked for a few blocks, then entered another empty alley. This one was quite a bit smaller, only about 4 feet wide. He didn't understand why alleys were made this small. They were too small to put fire escapes in, but they were perfect size for Izuku to spider crawl up. He put each hand on a wall, then one foot onto the other. He put pressure on his hands and then used his abdominal to plant his feet further up the wall. Next, he put pressure on his feet and lifted him up higher and planted his hands on the wall once more. He repeated this until he was at the roof. He gripped the edge of the roof with one hand and used the opposite foot to push off the wall and grabbed onto the ledge with both hands. Then all he had to do was pull himself up. Izuku ran, leaping from rooftop to rooftop until he saw a group of men smoking in an alley. "Hey, I heard you got a new job," said a tall man with tan skin. He had solid bandages wrapped around his head and a majority of his torso, so the words he spoke came out slightly muffled. "Yeah, and it pays really well too. My family and I may actually be able to live comfortably for a few months. We wouldn't have to go dumpster diving or water down our miso soup so that it lasts more than one meal." The smaller man with gray hair answered, "That sounds like the life." A large man with 4 arms sighed wistfully, blowing smoke into the air. "Unfortunately, looking like I do, this bar security job is the only one I can find." "You're telling me," the gray hair responded. "I make oxygen. I'm as useful as a houseplant. I might as well be quirkless for all that gets me." The men were quiet for a moment. "So what kind of job is it?" Mummy Man asked. "Some sort of janitor job?" Gray hair said uncertainly. The recruiter said there was this site that needed to be cleaned up, and it needed to be done quickly. So their boss was authorizing them to find as many people as possible and to pay a shitload of cash to make it happen. And they don't give a crap about quirks. Straight from the recruiter's mouth. "Damn," Forearms said with emphasis. "Do you happen to know if they're still looking for workers? I'd love to get out of this place for a while. Maybe actually pay back some of those debts I own." "I'm not sure, but I still have the recruiter's number. I can call them and find out." "If they are, hook me up too," Mummy Man said. Gray hair laughed. "Will do." The 3 men stomped out their cigarettes and walked back into the building. He was presumably going back to work. Izuku stayed there for a moment, making sure no one came back out and would see him moving. He had been told that southern Musutafu was crime-ridden, but he wasn't seeing any of that. In fact, the only thing he had seen far with some people who were down on their luck trying to make a living. But, Izuku thought, southern Musatafu is a large area. There was no way he could be in all places at once. It was likely crime was happening all over, just not where he was at the moment. He wondered if there was predict where crime would happen before it actually did. Almost everything in life had a pattern. If he studied the crime habits in the area and found a pattern, he could probably do a lot more good rather than just wandering about aimlessly. After a few more hours of patrolling, where he didn't do much more than make sure some people who were out walking alone made it to where they were going, Izuku went home. He looked up at his kitchen window on the second floor and wondered how he should get back up. There was no fire escape and he couldn't just jump nearly 10 feet. A light bulb went off. He remembered seeing a video when he was studying parkour about someone damn near running up the side of the wall, then jumping across to another wall across from it. Izuku had never tried to do that before, but it couldn't hurt to try. Izuku backed up towards the entrance of the alley, then ran at full speed towards the wall opposite his window, the soles of his shoes gripping the wall, allowing him to run up it with little problem. Pushing off the wall with both feet, Izuku soared towards the still open kitchen window. He grabbed the sill with the tips of his fingers and cushioned his impact by making sure both of his feet landed on the building. Then, all he had to do was crawl through his window and he was home. It wasn't the best way to get in because it actually made quite a bit of noise, but it would work in an emergency. The next time he went out, he would see if it was easier to jump from the higher building next door. His shoes absorbed impacts, so as long as he made sure to land on his apartment, no one should hear him on the roof. Izuku removed his uniform and returned it to its case, then took a shower to remove any sweat he accumulated. He laid out a couple of blankets as a makeshift futon and crawled underneath a third, slightly heavier blanket. He didn't have to work at the cafe the next day, so he would use that time to find the crime pattern. With a plan in mind, Izuku went to sleep. I'm going to do chapter 20 because this feels really short for an episode. So, chapter 20. It turned out there was a pattern. If the area was split into 12 sections in a circle like a compass, the different sections experienced crimes in a clockwise pattern, section 1 having crimes one day and section 2 the next, etc. But there was exemptions that made it feel more random. Every third day, 2 to 3 sections would be skipped. Whether it was 2 or 3 depended on if the day was an even one or an odd one. Then the second Sunday of every month was free of crime, and the pattern switched to counterclockwise on the third Wednesday of every month, then back clockwise the next month. The only thing that actually was random was the time of the day the crime happened and the type. Izuku was a little confused at the revelation of a pattern. There was no way this was natural. Someone had to be pulling the strings of it to be set up this way. And if quirkless Izuku was able to figure it out, someone else should have been able to do the same. Then he remembered that there wasn't really anyone patrolling this area, so he supposed it wasn't actually that big of a surprise. Well, if that was the case, then he would just have to take advantage of knowing where things would happen and try to stop them. And if he just so happened to figure out who was controlling the crime while he was at it, well, that was just icing on the cake. It had only taken a couple of hours to find the pattern which Izuku completed after his normal workout at the gym. So now he was free to do whatever until nightfall. He should probably sleep. He stayed up most of the night patrolling, then has to work at the cafe the next day. Realistically, he probably wouldn't be able to sleep anyways. His sleep schedule had been fairly regular, so sleep during the day and taking frequent naps was going to be something for him to have to get used to. He laid out a couple of blankets and spread out on them. He picked up the phone and he recently ran an update on it that would allow him to do anything on his phone that he would normally do on his computer, and it would show simultaneously on the computer and vice versa. That way, if one of them breaks, he wouldn't lose his work. He scrolled through it absent-mindedly. He came across an article that caused him to pause. All Might would be teaching at UA this year, or actually starting tomorrow, he should say. His friends, Juro, Su, Ojiro, Uraraka, they would be learning from the best of the best at the best institution in the country. An ache as old as his quirklessness pulsed in his chest. He didn't think it would ever truly go away, no matter how many villains he helped put away, or how much he helped the community. At this point, it was like an old friend, something that was always with him, a creature comfort, like a security blanket. It told him that he hadn't changed, that he hadn't given up, that fate was leading him exactly where he was supposed to be going, and that calmed his mind more than he was willing to admit. It had been a long time since Izuku went down an All Might rabbit hole. Even longer since he went back to where it all started. He pulled up photos and stories about when All Might was in high school and just after graduation. Then he found a photo that he hadn't seen before. It was in an article that was buried deep within the internet, not in an area where light didn't touch, but more like an area where people no longer go, like a ghost town lost in the forests of Japan. Sun shining brightly down upon it, where it was even more beautiful because of the lack of humanity. Where Izuku is a once-in-a-decade visitor, and he has all the time in the world to admire its beauty. It was an article talking about a woman mentored to All Might, and she worked in the community, about how she was never seen without a smile, about how she always saved more than just the physical bodies of Musatafu citizens. She also saved their hearts. She did more than just fight villains. She also worked with villain rehabilitation programs and donated a large part of her paychecks to anti-discrimination programs and programs that help people find jobs and afford food and find housing. Ultimately, programs that are aimed at reducing numbers of villains heroes face. It also hinted at how the Hero Public Safety Commission wasn't a fan of hers, how they believed she was shrinking her duties by refusing to blindly go after villains they sent her way. That was the kind of hero Izuku wanted to be. She didn't have the strength of All Might or his persona that made her instantly likable to any civilians and authority figures alike. But Izuku can see where All Might got his smile. Izuku wanted to learn more about her. It was interesting. Just like All Might, anything before high school was simply gone. That's not completely unheard of. There are plenty of high-profile heroes who wanted to keep their childhoods a secret in order to protect their friends and family. But during this time, it was more common to know absolutely everything about heroes. It made the civilians feel like they were closer to the people protecting them. It made them closer to human than instead of gods they are nearly considered today. He wondered where her belief system stemmed from. Did she grow up poor, surrounded by villains, or people with villainous quirks like Uraraka? Or was she a bystander just watching injustice pass her by and decided it wasn't right until she was older and wanted to make an amends? He looked up her mentor. He was a man known for being active in his community and a good head on his shoulders. He knew his limitations and also how to use his quirk and the quirks of those around him effectively. He was a master strategist during his time as a hero, at least until he was tragically killed in the line of duty, a fate that had befallen his mentee, and like his mentee, his early years was a mystery. His mentor was a bald man with abundance of bravery and enthusiasm. He was one of the first officially recognized heroes. His name was Lontor. Although it was almost 100 years old, Izuku found a video of him laughing joyously and boldly daring some villain to come after him. He reminded Izuku of All Might. If the hero-mentor thing was genetic, then Izuku would almost think All Might got it from him. Hopefully All Might didn't also inherit his penchant for being torn in half by a villain. Lotor only mentioned his mentor once. He said his mentor was a quiet man, one who avoided the public and worked every day of his life to master his quirk. Eventually, his master was the one who told him to keep his past in the past. Evidently, this was hysterical to Lotorn because his master also was taught by someone who cared very little about holding on to his own secrets. Unfortunately, Lotorn's master died of a mysterious illness at a young age. Bruce was a man who worked with the resistance shortly after the dawn of quirks. He and two others were the leaders. They fought against the government's death squad. People who were quirkless would go around and indiscriminately kill those who were found to have quirks. This group of 3 men worked together on a type of underground railroad to transport people who had quirks to places where they would be safe. It was even thought that one of these men was quirkless himself. It was the first modern example of someone fighting against quirkless discrimination, and is often used as an example in school about not discriminating against others based on their quirk. Unfortunately, there was not many examples of villainous quirks, and mutation quirks were normally limited to extra limbs or horns. Quirks were fairly new and hadn't had time to evolve into the complex oddities they were today. This only reinforced the thought that people with fully mutation quirks are people with quirks that are so incredibly complex that people don't truly understand them, i.e. villainous quirks, were unworthy of being considered, not to mention the quirkless themselves. Having one quirkless person working amongst the quirk, and for the quirked allowed the teachers to subtly insinuate that the quirkless were below the quirked. It made Izuku's life a nightmare. Over the next few years, the group lost one person after another. The quirkless man, he was sick and weak throughout his whole life. His brother was a villain, some say the original villain, and used anyone he could find in order to fight back against the government. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people died in his bid to take over the country. The resistance didn't agree and did what they could to stop him and transport his personnel somewhere far from him. After his brother died of his illness, it was like nothing could stop him. He tracked down anyone who worked against him and killed them with ruthless abandon. There was this rumor that the villain was searching not only for world domination, but also supposedly a treasure that was hidden from him by his brother, the location of which was passed between the leaders of the resistance. After the death of the last leader, which so happened to be Bruce, by the villain, the trail of the treasure went cold. It was believed that the location had died with him due to his single-minded ambition to take everything from him. The villain was given the moniker All for One. All for One took this moniker and adapted it not only to himself but to his quirk as well. He had the power to give and take quirks at will. He reportedly was able to use any quirk he took, and there didn't seem to be any limit. Izuku found this absolutely fascinating. That type of quirk, if used now, could do so much good. It could help those who were hurt by their quirk, and it could give any quirk to the quirkless in order to stop discrimination. But did Izuku want a quirk? If he had one, even if it was weak or useless, he could have been a hero. But he was a hero now, just not a name. The leaders of the resistance, they were the first to use their quirks to fight those who were using theirs to harm others. They were heroes even if they were not given the title. What made Izuku any different? Was it because he didn't have a quirk? Not really. One of the leaders, All for One's brother, was quirkless. He was the first and only quirkless hero. He fought against a man with the strongest recorded quirk in history. And he wasn't All Might. He wasn't nearly as strong as All Might or even as healthy, but he still fought. He may have lost his life, although not to All for One, but he was able to keep this treasure from him. He made a difference. If All for One had gotten the treasure, he probably would have been able to take over the world, no problem. His quirkless brother made it impossible for him to do that. All for One died, not even ruling a single city. Wait, did he die? Well, that was a stupid question because of course he did. But when? He killed his brother, Bruce, and one other person who knew where the treasure was. But what happened after that? Izuku found it difficult to believe he just gave up. No, someone had to have been given the location. Izuku's mind instantly went to Lortor's unnamed master, the only person with a confirmed link to Bruce. The hermit avoided the public and was able to keep the treasure hidden. That's why the information Izuku found made it sound as if the location died with Bruce. It was because Hermit Man made it that way purposefully. If the person who knew the location of the treasure was known and in the public's eye, it would be easier for All for One to find them. Lortorn's master hid himself away to give the illusion the treasure was lost. But he would have had to give it to someone else after him. If he died so young, he would have had to known he was sick, so he was looking for a successor. That person had to be Lortorn, and based on Lortorn's comment about the past remaining in the past, and knew that All for One killed anyone he wanted to in his quest for power, the hermit probably told Lortor that himself and other successors would need to keep their friends and family a secret, or risk them being killed or tortured. And this pattern continued until it reached All Might's mentor, Nana Shimura. She was the first to publicize her family. Her husband and son, Izuku, had found an article about her husband being killed by a villain. Izuku had a gut feeling that it wasn't some random villain. The treasure is only passed down to one person each generation. It's not logical to believe that the treasure had nothing to do with her husband's death, but that would mean that All for One was still around. But if he was still around, then he would have to be over 150 years old. There was no record in state of a human living that long without a longevity quirk. But he could steal quirks. What if he found one? If he made too much, is he making too much of a leap in logic? Well, even if the theory is improbable, it certainly isn't impossible. And if it was that old, then why does he need money? He could have plenty of time to collect enough money to bribe or buy out absolutely any person or company he wanted. It clicked. It's not money. Not by a long shot. It's a quirk. Izuku's heart skyrocketed. He popped up and sat cross-legged on the blankets. His legs shook up and down. The treasure was a quirk. Then Izuku stilled. It wasn't just any quirk. The treasure was All Might's quirk. He guessed maybe Lord Torn's laughter was genetic after all. That is the end of chapter 20. Chapter 21 will be up next. I'm going to read a little bit of it, and we'll go from there. He was jumping building to building, watching for anything suspicious. The thought of a mysterious quirk swirled in the back of his mind. There was a couple assumptions he could make about it. Well, that's all. Stay hydrated with the heat waves. Stay out of flooding areas with the rain. And remember, eat donuts. Bye-bye.